All right, everyone, let's get started. Hello, my name is Vincent, and I'm the Enterprise Product Manager at ClickUp. We're very happy to welcome you to this webinar with already more than 1,000 registrants. Please make sure to use the Zoom Q&A tab to send in any questions you may have throughout the webinar. We have great customer support reps who will be happy to answer them. And I'll also take some time to answer your questions live at the end of our session today. Feel free to also use the Zoom chat feature to chat amongst yourself, but just note that we won't be answering questions in the chat area. Okay, perfect. So today, we're going to see how to use ClickUp for Agile workflows. From a 10 people small business to 100,000 people enterprise, everyone wants to be Agile. But actually, what does Agile really mean? If we ask this question, we'll certainly hear a lot of different answers from people telling us that Agile is Scrum, or no, that it's actually Kanban. And when we start considering Agile at scale, we'll hear people telling us that SAFe is the best, others that less is better, and some who don't see the difference with Lean. Yet all these answers are only partially right, since Agile is not a framework, but a mindset that is defined by values and guided by principles that were first expressed as part of the Agile Manifesto in 2001. This established the foundation of what it means to be Agile. But values and principles are not enough to achieve projects, so we also have to do Agile, which is manifested through a rich and diverse set of practices that are implemented through life cycles of project delivery. Let's start by understanding the core values that are shared among all Agile frameworks. But just as a bit of context, the traditional organizational mindset that is used in industrial work was based on enforcing processes, command and control, predictive planning, and stable work, which is most known as Waterfall. But that wasn't adapted to knowledge work with empirical processes and high levels of uncertainty, most commonly attributed to software development. And in that case, Agile is the best suited solution, because to be Agile means that we want to focus on individuals and interactions over processes and tools, since without people, there's no knowledge. We want to focus on working software over comprehensive documentation, since product is where lies the real value. We want to focus on customer collaboration over contract negotiation, since communication and flexibility are paramount to delivering value faster. And last but not least, we want to focus on responding to change over following a plan, since we accommodate for uncertainty and adapt accordingly. Now that we have the right mindset, let's do Agile. But where to start from? As you can see on this picture representing the full Agile landscape, there's a lot of frameworks to choose from, each with hundreds of practices to learn about, so it can quickly become very overwhelming. To make it simpler to understand today and demonstrate the most common practices in ClickUp, we're going to base this webinar on the Disciplined Agile Toolkit, which, as I just said, is not a framework, but a hybrid, choice-driven toolkit that includes practices from many existing frameworks, like Scrum, Kanban, XP, and SAFe. It's also an Agile at Scale toolkit that is enterprise-aware by considering all teams and organizational levels of the value stream to adapt to any type of context, which is also the vision that ClickUp promotes. And it's supported by flexible life cycles that are adapted to different time to market and product delivery strategies that we're going to see inside of ClickUp through 3 disciplined Agile use cases. We'll start with a simple Scrum example that we will build from scratch, then see more advanced use cases with a pre-built demo of an advanced Agile system. And we will end with the ultimate lean bug pool system we built internally at ClickUp to fix our bugs faster and more efficiently. Just as a disclaimer, the simple Agile and advanced Agile demos were previously presented as part of the Jira comparison webinar, whereas the Lean bug pool is entirely exclusive to this one. So let's start with the basics. The first lifecycle we want to begin with is the Agile one, because it's the most commonly used and it relates to Scrum-based iterative approach. In order to build the system, we need to create a product backlog that you can visualize right here that will hold all the work items to be done. We will break down those work items from the epic level down to the task level and prioritize them to know what we want to work on next. Then we will pull the highest priority work items and we will push them into a 2-week iteration that is often called sprint, for example, in Scrum. And as you can see, we have also coordination meetings, like the vision meeting at the start of an iteration, the daily coordination meeting every day, and the iteration wrap-up meeting that is often broken down into review and retrospective. So they are very important since they structure the cycle and they enable constant realignment of the team. Let's now replicate that into ClickUp and go into our workspace. Great, so as you can see in the sidebar, we created a simple Agile project for a space. So let's start by adding a list that will contain the work to be done. I can click on Create List, and we can name this Work Items. Now we can start adding all our items either inline, so directly like that, I can create a task, or I can go even faster by copy-pasting bullet points of text or a column from an Excel sheet. So actually, we can write all of our user stories inside of a personal ClickUp notepad, copy all of those text bullet points, like that, copy, and then I can paste them and create automatically the 14 items. Then the next step will be to edit the properties of those items that I can do without even opening them. So we can start adding some assignees. We can put, let's say, a due date, and we can also add a priority. So basic stuff for now. So really the default fields. If you want to go faster, you can also bulk edit the items using the quick selection that you can see here, holding Shift, and then use the multitask toolbar that you are seeing at the top here to apply the same property to multiple items in just a few clicks. So let's say that all of this will be assigned to me. Directly, I can press that and get everything will be assigned to me. So now that we've seen the basics of the edit system, we can expand it by adding more custom properties that are also called custom fields and that you can add with this plus button. Once you click on it, you have the full selection right here. And one of the main needs for our work items right now is prioritization that we can achieve through a simple Moscow analysis. So let's add a drop-down custom field that we're gonna name Moscow, and we can add some options. So must have, should have, could have, or even would have. We can also add a few colors to differentiate them. So let's put must have in red, this one orange, blue, and gray, because we don't care so much about the must-haves. Perfect. So now the good thing, when you start filling these items, so let's put some of them quickly, like that, okay, is that we can now group those items by the Moscow field that we've just created to instantly differentiate the must-haves, the should-haves, and the could-haves. So now I can select group by, custom field, and I can select Moscow. And as you can see, very visually, I can directly identify that. We can also add a filter to only see a specific subset of those items. So I can search for my Moscow. Moscow is, and select the must-haves only. So now I will only see those two items. So now that we have added the items that we need and we have set up the Moscow field, we might want to see those items in a more visual way. that would represent their process. So we can add a board view that you can see here at the top. So here one is a board view, and we can start by moving those items through the different statuses using drag and drop, just like that. Also, in the board view, we enable you to have the same powerful grouping, sorting, and filtering capabilities as in any other view, so that you can configure it in just a few clicks. So same thing here, I select Moscow, and I directly see it very visually this way. Let's now open one of those user stories to start adding more details inside. One of the recommended approaches is to have a defined format, like the story A4 format, so that you can get consistency throughout the company and alleviate user errors. In order to achieve that, we can copy the formatted text that we've added into our notepad right here. So I will select that, copy, and now I can paste it directly into my description. As you can see, we can even add some code blocks that might be very useful for your Gherkin acceptance tests. So let's close the notepad and here select Gherkin. And as you can see, the formatting adapts to the language that you need to track. The next step will be to break down that user story into the specific tasks that are needed to complete it. So we can add them directly from here with the same copy-paste method we had shown just before. So now I can go back, select my tasks, that, copy, and create all of those tasks. Last but not least, we need to define what we mean by done. So we have to add acceptance criteria to the user story, which we can achieve through checklists that can be assigned to different people in the team. So now I can create this checklist that I can call maybe definition of done. And now I will be able to select my acceptance criteria, copy paste them, and now I have all of my checklist items that can be assigned to different people in the teams and checked off once they're done. Perfect, so now we have everything we need for a great user story. But the issue is that if we want to create the same for each user story we add, it will take forever. The good news is that ClickUp enables you to quickly create templates from everything in the app. So we can create a user story template. We can click on those three little dots here, Template Center, Save as Template, and now we can call it User Story with all the information inside. So now I will save that. And now we can quickly create new user stories with all the information already pre-filled. So I will click on plus task, templates, create instantly from a template, and now I will be able to search for my user story that was here. Perfect. So now it has been created. And the good thing is that if you open it, as you can see, you still have all of your information, all of your breakdown, and your acceptance criteria. Great, so the only thing we need to finish preparing our work items is to add the epics that contain those user stories. In order to do that, we can take advantage of the 7 levels of nested sub-items available to build our hierarchy and nest the stories below our epics. So for that, I can click again on my notepad, take some epics like that, copy, and now I can add them directly from here. Great. And now I can put, for example, that user story below my profile. And as you can see, it keeps the tasks below, exactly like we want. And we can go even further down by adding some subtasks. Perfect. With that system, what is nice is that it will enable you to directly get an idea of the progress rollup by adding an automatic progress bar that we can find in the custom fields, auto progress, like that, and that we can name progress. So now you're going to see that when we finish this task, we close it, it will update here to 5% so that it gives you this full visibility of progress. But actually in the list view, it's not very visual. And we want to make sure our teams can clearly visualize this breakdown. So we've added a mind map view to directly see the hierarchy in a very visual way. So I can click on tasks, and now you're going to see all the work items, my profiles here. And if I open it, I have my user story, my tasks, and everything below like that. Sweet, so now we have everything we need to get started, but we still have to consider our meetings, which are very important steps of the Agile life cycles. So we can create a meetings list by clicking on New List here, and we can add it and call it Meetings. We can then maybe put them inside of a folder, so new folder that we'll call Backlog. And now we are able to put both our work items and our meetings into that backlog. We have 4 types of meetings that happen over the course of 2 weeks. As we mentioned, they are generally called sprint planning, daily coordination, sprint review, and sprint retrospective. So let's just create these 4 elements. Copy, and now I can close this and paste them. Perfect. Each of them has a specific recurrence pattern, and they happen every sprint. So it would be very tedious to have to create new meetings every time. It's to help with that kind of use case that we introduced recurring dates. So you can click on the due date, and you can see that I have set recurring. And now with that ability, you can set a recurrence pattern that would automatically reopen the item or create a new item according to the need. So for this case, for example, for sprint planning, generally you put it on a Monday and you set as custom. Custom, every 2 weeks, it will recur like that. So let's save that and keep that information. Then we need to assign this meeting to all the attendees. So we can add multiple assignees directly from here. Or if we want to go faster, we can select a full team of 5 people, for example, like that. And now the best way to visualize meetings is in a calendar view, just like this one here. As you can see, it's very great because you can see all of the recurring meetings directly as tasks like that. Or if you want to get even like further with the system, you can add a two-way synchronization of your events from Google. So here I've activated this demo calendar, and you can see all of the meetings directly from here that I can view in Google Calendar. This feature is also coming soon to Outlook, and as you can see, it enables you to keep everything in one place. Awesome, so we finished preparing our backlog with the items we need, and we can now add sprints by creating a folder dedicated to them. So I will create a folder, but this time it will be a sprint folder. So there are lots of settings here. I'm just gonna do it very fast, create 5 sprints, and now I have my sprint folder with all of the elements here. So now we have 2 possible approaches that we can take. Either we move the items directly into the sprint, or we can have the items be in 2 lists at the same time by adding them, not moving them, but adding them. So let's try to do just that. I can select, for example, some user stories from here, and I can select some meetings. I will be able to press this button and now add 2 lists. So I can select my sprint folder and put them into sprint 1. And now if we take a look at sprint 1, what is nice is that you will be updating the same item from both locations, which will provide you with a lot of flexibility. So here, if I update the sprint planning to put it in progress, and I go back to my meetings, you will see that the sprint planning has been updated to in progress. So really, it's in a very easy and powerful way of consolidating information, which can still be visualized in different ways through multiple views. But a sprint wouldn't really make sense without goals that can be tracked through key results. So for that, let's head to the gold feature right here. See the Simple Agile project folder, where I can find, for example, my goals for each sprint. So now with this built-in goals feature, you will be able to add those goals and add to them some targets, so some key results directly like that. These targets can then be linked to tasks. So you can add a task right here, add task, and choose maybe this one. And once it will be done, it will update the target result from here. Since we're also considering tracking results, there's no better way than through a dashboard with charts. And luckily, we have this dashboard feature. But to showcase that, I will go directly to our own workspace at ClickUp with some data. Perfect. So now what you can see here is an entirely customizable and resizable layout. So with widgets that can be moved, changed like that, and it can be added very easily. That include a burn down and a burn up chart, for example, pie and line charts, and some more advanced ones like the velocity chart, the cycle time, the lead time, or even cumulative flow. So really interesting and powerful way of tracking things. And there's also many other widgets that you can select right from here. So just before we wrap up the simple Agile project example, what if we needed to create another similar project? Actually, we can quickly click on the space here and duplicate it. So you have duplication button, or even better, you can save the project as a template to reuse anytime with all of its data. Great. So now let's recap what we saw in the simple Agile demo. So what we need to remember is that you can break down your full product backlog using nested subtasks. You can get flexible sprints with tasks in multiple lists. You can schedule meetings with recurring events and two-way synchronization with external providers. You can track progress using dashboards and goals, all of which can be standardized using templates. So now you can see how easy it is to begin with Agile in ClickUp. Yet, a product backlog is actually too simplistic, as we've just scratched the surface of Agile management. So if we look back at the Agile lifecycle, there's actually an important detail I omitted. Here, it's not showing a real product backlog, where all the items are of similar shape and of a similar size, like in a Scrum-based approach. But instead, it's a work item list that considers any type of items, which goes beyond functional requirements, with bugs, experiments, requests, trainings, communications, and much more. Yet, it's not just about work items, since non-work items like risks, vacations, stakeholders, and expenses all have a major impact on projects and are thus required for comprehensive project management. So let's dive into the advanced Agile demo, where we're going to tackle how to reproduce the work item list system inside of ClickUp and discover how powerful the platform can be. So let's dive back right here and open our advanced Agile project. So let's start by looking at a more advanced way of doing product management with our epics and stories. In the previous example, we defined the priority using the simple Moscow qualitative approach with must have, should have, could have, and would have using the drop-down custom field. But when you're faced with hundreds of new features, that approach alone is not scalable because we need to know in the same group what to do next more precisely, which can be achieved through a quantitative approach. So let's move right here. One example is the WSJF calculation that is found in the SAFe framework and that compares the cost of delay that we are seeing here to the effort, both of which are being calculated through intermediary values that are here, like the user value, time criticality, risk reduction, but also backend effort and front-end effort. And if we open this, you can see that it's actually a formula, exactly like an Excel sheet. So no complex scripts needed, very easy to set up if you're familiar with that. The cost aspect is also essential to every project management. So we may need to define the monetary value by comparing the expected revenue of a feature, the interest rate that we have from the bank, and maybe the years of development to calculate our present value, which is the maximum amount of money that we need to spend to make value from that feature. And once that feature has been released, we can compare the actual revenue to the actual cost to get our return on investment that can be called ROI. So with all this information about prioritization in mind, we can now build our high-level product roadmap using the timeline view that you can visualize right here. What is great with this timeline view compared to a Gantt chart that you can also add with this view, so you have both Gantt and timeline, is that it keeps the planning very flexible. And also it enables grouping inside of the roadmap. So you can group it by would have, should have, must have, and could have in this way. But like we mentioned in the introduction to this demo, what if we need to track multiple types of items, not just epics and stories, but maybe each of those items could have a different workflow and different properties? Well, that's where the flexibility of ClickUp's hierarchy really shines, because we can use each list as a different item type by customizing the statuses and the custom fields in just a few clicks. So if we take a look at the risks now, we can see that instead of a simple to-do, in progress, done workflow, here, if I open that, you will see that the status here is to evaluate, under evaluation, in resolution, unsolvable, and solved. We can also see that the fields that are not exactly the same as before. This time we're calculating the severity based on the probability and impact, which can also be done through an impact cost approach to get the expected monetary value, all of which couldn't be done without calculations and formulas. Once again, we can use the board view to better visualize the workflow, but maybe this time we want to manage the work in progress so that we can identify bottlenecks and tackle the items more quickly. With work in progress limits that you can see here, it's possible to do just that. And since we're always pushing for more flexibility in the platform, these can also be used with any numeric custom fields to see, for example, how much money you might risk losing by letting some of the risks without resolution. The same kind of system can also be used for any kind of test management, including bugs, crashes, errors that would be related, for example, to test suites and versions, which we're going to dive into extensively during the Lean Bug Pool demo in just a few minutes. So really what's important to understand here is that all these items don't live as separate entities, but they can be linked to each other as part of relationships. And one good way of showcasing this approach is through the OKR management for objectives and key results. We previously saw the goals feature in the simple Agile demo, but what if we needed to take it to the next level? Using items for objectives and nested items for key results, we can take advantage of all the native features that are in ClickUp, including views, so board, a roadmap to see all of these goals. And also what is interesting is that you can add custom fields to add more specific properties, like a category or an automatic progress. This enables also the use of relationships that we were talking about that can be added as custom fields. So let's click on plus button and we can see relationship. So now what will be interesting is that we want to relate those goals to other lists of items. In our example, we can relate goals to epics, for example. And now I will name that relationship epics. I will relate it to a task from a specific list and select that list right from here. So that list will be my epics that I just showcased before. We can then roll up fields from that list to directly see all the information we need. So we can select the status. I can select Moscow, for example, and we can select a numeric value like the expected revenue. And what is interesting here with this calculate button is that it will be able to sum up or do an average or do a range according to the need. So let's add this column right here. Now I can add some epics directly related to a goal, or even better, I can do it directly for a key result. So let's add some epics right from here. So I will select maybe profiles, I can select membership, and I can select like a third one with the news. And as you can see, we can see automatically to do, the must have, should have information, and the full expected revenue with a sum right from here. So now if I open this goal, this key result actually, you will be able to see all the epics that are related to it. And the relationship works two-way. So if I open the epic, you will be able to see all the information plus this objective, a relationship panel with the key result associated to that epic. So this approach really provides you with more depth to ClickUp, not just as a work management platform, but mostly as a database, which is very valuable when considering those non-work items that actually impact the workload of a team and that are not directly related to product delivery. So this is particularly useful to consider vacations, sick leaves, or holidays that we can find in our capacity management folder here, vacations. So if I click on vacation, what will be interesting is that we will identify those elements that might disrupt our planning and that we can add to our calendar schedule, exactly like what I showed you before with our meetings. So you add them like that, or you can visualize them directly from your calendar. These vacations will then impact the workload and add up to the rest of the work items. So now, if I visualize at the highest level of the hierarchy, at the space level, all of my workload, I will be able to see that, for example, Alma has all of these things that impact her workload and that make it overcapacity in that case, including the holidays or, for example, the vacations right here. Using the me mode that you can find just here, or a profile sidebar that you can open with this button, you will also be able to visualize at the individual level or the team level all the elements that are in this view. So really what's interesting is that it enables true resource management. Moreover, another pillar of Agile that we mentioned at the beginning of this webinar is that individuals and interactions are more important than processes and tools. So for that, we can open our improvement management folder and take a look at our team status. For example, here in that case, we can see what is the team phase, what is team competency, engagement, leadership style, so that it can improve over time. So that's at the team level. But maybe you want individual assessments as well. So you can also create another list for that. And as you can see, we can use rating custom fields that can be added by managers or auto evaluation that can be done by the individuals themselves. So as you can see, we can really push the system very far and put everything in one place. And as we previously did in the simple Agile demo, we can now display all the items in multiple places at the same time. So if I now click on Q4, which is a sprint folder with that icon, you will be able to see all of your sprints and create a unified consolidated view with all of your bugs, communications, crashes, errors, epics, all in one place. So just before we wrap up this advanced Agile example, what if we needed to display all that information inside of a company wiki? The good news is that we have just that with the docs feature that you can find right here. So let's open docs, find all, and open this example docs. So what is interesting is that you can create a full wiki, really extensive wiki with nested page hierarchy and rich text editing, a bit like a Google Doc. So you can write, for example, this kind of text article, let's say. But what is even better and that pushes this to the next level is that we can embed the views that we've seen directly inside the doc so that it's completely integrated and it enables you to update this data in real time. So now if we take a look at those bugs right here, as you can see, you can change them directly from here, or you can visualize a workload embed view directly from here and interact with that view. So very powerful and integrated system. So the goal here is that you stop losing time writing and constantly updating a comprehensive documentation, but instead you would reuse the content from existing parts of the platform to provide more visibility and automatically reflect the latest updates. Great. So now let's go back here. And now we can recap what we saw in the advanced Agile demo. We saw that behind its simple look, ClickUp is actually a powerhouse that enables you to do custom prioritization using formulas, build an agile roadmap using timeline view, manage resources efficiently using workload view, relate items to each other using relationships, and document your work in a fully integrated manner using docs, while always remaining easy to use, fast to set up, and collaboration oriented. So now you can really understand how ClickUp can support your agile vision and adapt to any level of complexity, from the simple example that we saw before to this fully advanced one right now. And since we're talking about complexity, one of the main challenges for a company is to start growing exponentially, as it requires to change strategy and practices very rapidly to constantly adapt to the evolving context. That's what happened for ClickUp end of last year, after hitting a $1 billion valuation due to our Series B funding, which made us reflect about the best way to deliver more value to our users faster. Right now, I will focus on ClickUp's experience to show you how a company can choose to even drop iterations and start releasing continuously by embracing the continuous lean lifecycle that disciplined agile showcases here. Instead of having iterations that push back the release of bug fixes and feature improvements, this Kanban-based approach enables a continuous stream of development, which is particularly useful to react swiftly to constant flow of requests. In order to achieve this, we have pools of work that you are seeing here. 1, 2, 3, and 4 different pools that are actually constantly prioritized and from which is pulled only when capacity is available until the work is released directly into production. So we start with the pool here, we pull it when we have capacity, we work on it, and we release it directly into production in a continuous stream of development. This actually enables teams to avoid task switching, to avoid this partially done work, and to avoid extra processes, which are the main factors of waste in a company. And one of the main factors of waste impacting software products is bugs. So the question we had to answer as we start scaling up is how to handle bug reports at scale. So when we receive thousands of bug reports, it quickly becomes overwhelming and it's very difficult to know what to start with. So our goal was to make it easy to always know what to work on next through a reliable and intelligent prioritization system. We want to always know who's responsible for what by assigning very precisely per role. And we want to always know what's the status per team so that we're continuously aware of potential roadblocks and find where they come from. At ClickUp, we collect reports from multiple sources, either through user tickets, bug forms, internal reports, and canny feedback, which means we had to make the system work for each of them and revamp our current system to accommodate for more flexibility as we continuously improve over time. Once that base is prepared, we could then get into the most important part, the bug evaluation. To prioritize, we want to compare the severity of a bug to the effort required to fix it. So we implemented a fully automated calculation system for quality assurance to define the severity based on customer-related values that you can visualize here, while the developers would define the effort based on their estimation and level of confidence. We also wanted to make sure that we had clear ownership for each bug. So we split our assignees into dedicated team fields for both QA and dev. So now that we have the severity and the effort, our automated system provides a qualitative priority that enables to group bugs into 4 categories: do now, do next, do later, and don't do. But the issue is that this qualitative approach alone is not very precise, as we mentioned previously in the advanced agile demo. Because, for example, how can you define what should be done now when you have hundreds of bugs in the do now category? It's to solve this problem that we introduced a custom quantitative priority as a complement to the qualitative categories, so that we always have a precise calculated number associated to each bug. And now it's easier than ever to know that number 72 is more important than number 50 in the do now category, which are both more important than the do next category that is below. The final step was to make sure that once a bug enters the system, it gets through a flow that considers all the dependencies between teams and provides each of them with their own perspective to accelerate value delivery and improve collaboration while providing more visibility for everyone. So now that we understood the high-level principles of the lean bug pool, we can dive into ClickUp's own workspace to see how the system can be implemented in the tool. So some exclusive stuff right now. Let's get back into here and go into our staging instance, which is the development instance that we use internally at ClickUp. And I can put this back full screen. So we're going to start with the final result we get once the full prioritization has been done. As you can see in this bug register view, we have all bugs grouped by those qualitative categories. So do immediately, but if we scroll down, you can see that we also have the do now, do next, do later, and don't do. For sorting, here, we're using the quantitative priority number field that is calculated by the bug severity and the effort formulas. On the right side, here, we have clear owners with backend team and front-end team. Same thing with QA team here for QA. And both teams have their specific statuses with the dev status and with, for QA, the QA status. What is nice here is that, for example, when a bug is in progress for devs, QA is actually waiting for dev. And when a bug is failed for QA, it's in blocking issues for devs. So as you can see, it's like a parallel flow. But how did you get to this result? For that, let's open the bug preview view for bug prioritization. This gives us a full breakdown of the prioritization. As you can see, we have all these intermediary fields we need to define the severity with values related to customers, like the impact, the reproducibility, the total monthly recurring revenue, and the angriness of the user. That gives us this bug severity right here. And if I scroll to the right, we have the values related to the effort estimation with a coarse-grained backend duration, which is affected by the backend confidence, since there could be high levels of uncertainty for bugs. And after doing the same for front-end, so with front-end duration and front-end confidence, we can sum up the two to get the overall effort right here. So with these qualitative values, it's very easy for the teams to fill in all the information needed. But you might ask, how is it possible to do calculations with qualitative values? The solution we came up with was mapping these values to quantitative ones through automations. So let's open the automations model from here. As you can see, there's quite a lot. We can see here in this one that when the impact is set to minor, the related number will be 1. Whereas when it will be critical, in that case here, the number that it will be associated will be 5. So this method enables to remove the subjective bias induced by numbers while keeping the benefits of their precision and reporting capabilities. The last piece to make the prioritization work flawlessly was also to use a bit of the API that you can see here. This enables us to get a final calculation as a number field that can be used in filtering, in sorting, and also in reporting. So to achieve this, we can use once again the automations, but this time with the ability to call webhooks, which are event notifications that are sent to the API after changing some fields, so that it's completely integrated within the system and makes it very easy for devs to extend the functionality of the platform. Now that was only one part of the system, as we still needed to find a way to build our parallel team flows that I was mentioning before. So for that, if we scroll right here, we can see an example with the powerful automation. So I can set, for example, that when devs are in code review, we can automatically trigger a command for the code review process. I can set the QA status to waiting for dev, since they're waiting on that code review from the devs. And we can change the overall status of the task to in review. And what is nice is that all of the system that is behind the curtain that the teams are not actually seeing all the time is that all of this is reflected in the personal board views the teams use. So let's take a look at more views right here. So now if I click on my dev flow, you will see an example of an empty board for sure, because I'm not actually a dev. But what is interesting here is that the displayed statuses that you are seeing at the top here are specific to the dev team. And this view is actually filtered by me mode, which is a dynamic me mode. The difference between the simple me mode and the dynamic me mode is that the dynamic one enables each user coming to that view to automatically see their own personal work. So here's what a backend developer like Jerry would see. So if I click on Jerry, like that, you can see directly his own visualization of that board view. The same view type is also used for QA, so I can go into my QA flow. And as you can see here at the top, it's not exactly the same statuses. Right now, it's in QA review, and you have those review statuses that are specific to the quality assurance. So for example, here, if I put Zach, we can see what an engineering manager would see on his side. So great. Now we have both our prioritization and our flows. The last element we needed to ensure the system would work was to have a fully integrated bug intake process so that our users could submit their bugs. So in order to achieve this, I can scroll down a bit and take my bug submission form. Nice. So as you can see, we built a form directly within ClickUp through a very easy drag and drop of the fields that we mentioned before. So you can drag and drop them, and you can change what they are, test like that, or delete them directly from here. So what is nice is that we can help define the severity directly from the user intake system. And this form can be shared publicly via a link with that sharing button, or you can embed it using that embed code directly into a website or into a platform. And this is actually the forms that you can find in your help section inside of ClickUp when you click on submit a bug. Submit a bug, you can find exactly the same information. So as you can see, the lean bug pool system was built internally for ClickUp with the intent of bug tracking. But as you can imagine it can really adapt to any kind of request tracking, from incidents to features to even sales opportunities in a kind of a CRM approach. And it can truly fulfill the role of a help desk solution. Great. So now let's recap what we saw in the lean bug pool demo. We saw that ClickUp enables to get instantaneous priority with automations. It can provide visibility per team with custom views, build complex data models using custom fields, streamline report intake using forms, and even extend the functionality of the platform with the API and webhooks. All of which to build a fully automated, unified, and value-oriented system adapted to a continuous lean lifecycle approach. So as we arrive to the end of this webinar, I really hope that these demos showed you the flexibility, the powerfulness, and the ease of use of ClickUp in the context of agile workflows. Now you can really grasp how ClickUp enables you to accelerate value realization by improving internal efficiency, eliminate all waste by managing a flow, collaborate proactively by putting the emphasis on communication and transparency across teams, increase predictability through a data-driven approach, and help you improve continuously through its adaptive structure that accounts for flexible life cycles, but also powerful features that enable you to do whatever you want in the platform. So I invite you all to join the future of work and start a free trial of ClickUp today. As a source of inspiration, the advanced Agile template is publicly available for you right now in the Template Center, and the bug pool system will also be available soon as a template once we release our Formulas V2 coming soon. Also, I recommend you reading the Webflow use case on our website, explaining how one of the leaders of the no-code market uses ClickUp to reach business agility. Thank you, and we can now get to the questions. So let's get back to that screen, remove the full screen, and we can open the Q&A. Wouldn't make sense that relationships would automatically add anything that is linked, blocked, or waiting on. So that's a very good point. Actually, what I showcased during this example, let's go back to our goals, was only a relationship that is list to list. That's how we call them. But actually, you can create dependencies directly from here. So you can click on add, and now instead of using my epics like I did, you can create a dependency with waiting on and blocking. So for example, you can say that Martin Luther King Jr. Day is blocking that goal. The nice thing with that approach is that it will be visualized directly into a Gantt chart with a link that is visually displayed. And it will also prevent you from closing the task so easily. So when you close it, it will trigger an automation that will show that you still have something pending. Now for automations, I would say with the dependencies, you have the ability also to click on that automation button and to go even deeper with here the ability to say variable task linked, and maybe you can add a condition to define, so for example, task linked and it's a dependency that is blocking on. Maybe you can do some specific actions related to that. We're also expanding on that to add dependencies more easily to that automation very soon. And one thing to remember is that you can always visualize your dependencies from here with this field, so dependencies, that will showcase everything right from here. How can you use Gantt chart in last lean example most effectively? So that's a good point. And actually, the lean system isn't made for Gantt chart because, as you've seen, we're prioritizing per custom priority and not per time. So there is no due date that is related to those items, only capacity. So it's more of a workload management approach than a date approach. But if you want to see how that would look like with a full Gantt chart approach, it works best for waterfall management. So if I click on that waterfall management example and I go to my Gantt chart, which is just right here, you can visualize here how that would look like with a due date kind of approach and dependencies that we were mentioning, with some elements that are blocking and others that are waiting on. Hopefully that helps answer the question. Great. So we're just waiting on some other questions. What about required fields? Can I mark some custom fields as required and required if some other fields has some specific value? So that's a very good question, and I can show it to you directly. Let's go right here. Okay. Let's say that for your epics, you might need, like always, to define the user value. Actually, if you click on it and you edit the field, you will be able to see that we have this ability of required field. So you can say required field, or you can put requires this field for all subtasks. In this way, once you have done it, you won't be able to create a task in this list without that field. So it will ping you and say, hey, we need to put this required field before doing it. Another way of doing this is through the form that I've shown before in the bugs. Let's go here, right here, and let's take a look at the bug submission form. And as you can see, you can require any field directly from here as well. So hopefully that can help that approach. And let's mention also conditional forms. So if there is something that has been put, it will give you other options. This is coming this year. So that's a very good news. And we're starting the design on this feature. What happens to the tasks when the sprint is done? How should we set the status of the tasks? So that's also a very good question, and I can show it to you directly into the sprint folder because I went a bit fast about it. Or maybe I can show it to you through the Advanced Agile one. Because right here, you can see that automatically when it's put to done, the tasks have been pushed to the next one that has been put in progress. And as you can see, the dates are following the exact dates that I have here. So how is it set up? I can click on the settings and I can click into the sprint settings. Now you will see some options. So you can see that you can create new sprints automatically and how many sprints do you want to create once one is done. You can automatically mark your sprints as done whenever the date is due. And you can move unfinished spillover task to the next sprint. So that's how you can make sure that it's always automated and that you don't have to do repetitive work as well. Also, you can see that you have the flexibility to use points, time estimates, but also any kind of custom field that might be needed for that. Regarding bugs, is there a way to link the bug to specific client? Right now, I have this set up as a tag, it's client name. But is there a way to add all clients in advance and then add these to an item bug? I want this to be able to easily see which bugs this client has reported. Any ideas? So that's a very good point. Actually, right now, I'm not going to be able to show you the clients that have reported those bugs for data reasons, but I can explain how I would do it. I think the best solution would be to use relationships. So you would create a bugs list, but you would also create a clients list in a separate spot. So you would have, let's say, right here, bugs, and here it would be named clients. And then using the relationships that we have showcased previously, you can do a relationship and say which client is related to that bug. And in this way, you can get all the information in one for one client. So hopefully that helps understand this idea. Another question. In a document, can I put every chapter page as a task milestone to see the percentage completion of it? Oh, that's a good question. Yes, so actually, like we've shown, we can create tasks or items for anything. So if you want to use a task as a document or as a chapter or as a page, you can also do this very easily. And then you will have all the information with the progress bar, with the things that we have showcased previously. But to answer like more comprehensively this question, I think that one nice thing that you could do is also to use relationships to relate a doc. So for example, you can say that this page is related to an actual document that you have created before or to a specific page of that document so that you can always keep track of the data in every place. So now if I go into working with Unreal projects, you will be able to see that I have related to that those page links or backlinks as well that have been added. So hopefully this one clarifies this question. Project budgeting, milestone to see. Okay. So all questions have been answered by our amazing customer support reps. Is there any other questions before we finish? Okay, so I see that we are on time. So just as a disclaimer, this webinar and all of the future webinars will be available on our website. So you can type ClickUp webinars and you will be able to see all the upcoming webinars directly from here. So we have next, for example, consulting, emailing ClickUp, very interesting topic that I didn't mention today. So for example, you can send emails directly from your tasks, and that can really enable this help desk approach that I was mentioning for your bugs. So very interesting stuff coming soon. And you can also find the webinar in replay on YouTube very soon. So yeah, that's a wrap. And thank you, everyone.